It's Andrei, and today I welcome you in chapter 0.1 where we are going to install our first tool for Android native development, and it's called Android Studio. So everybody should aware what they are installing. So let's discuss quickly what is Android Studio. So first of all, Android Studio is IDE. And good question, what is IDE? I'm not sure that even some developers know how to decrypt these three letters, but I will tell you now. So IDE is Integrated Development Environment. This is a software application that helps programmers to develop software efficiently. It increases developer productivity by combining capabilities such as software editing, building, testing, and packaging in application. So, like, you can imagine, like, some writers or some musicians do use, for instance, music instruments, or writers use notebooks. Software developers use IDEs to make development faster. So this is the main tool for every software developer. So why it's important? Potentially you can write code everywhere, in the notepad, on the list of paper, but IDE itself provides some certain features which are really needed for every developer. So such features as debugging, syntax highlighting, and compilation. We will come back to those features when we install Android Studio, and we will get familiar with those features as well. As we already know what we are going to install, I would suggest to jump into the installation process. Important to mention that except Android Studio, today you will get familiar with another tool, which is the website called developerandroid.com. In future, it will be like the main book, the main source of information for Android native developers. So here's the shortcut in my Google Chrome. The website, as you can see, developerandroid.com, and this website has the main information, the all official information about Android development. So all of the news, all of the new tools, new releases you can find here. Also documentation. But the one thing which we are interested in today is Android Studio. So let's open this page. Here is the Android Studio page. So as you can see, there are a couple of tabs. First one is download, which obviously includes some downloading artifacts for different operation systems, depending what are you using. Also what's new tab, which obviously shows some release notes and some recent changes in the recent Android version. Also user guide. We will also come back to this page when we have deeper look into Android Studio. So let's come back to download. As you can see, there is a big download Android Studio button, and I would press it right away. So there are some default terms and conditions which we need to read. I already read it, so let's just press accept, and as you can see, it automatically realized that I'm using the Mac, and it suggests me to install Android Studio Dolphin. This is the version. So, but there are two different options. So first one is Mac with Intel chip and Mac with Apple chip. Here you need to make a right choice. So simply open About This Mac window, and here you can see the chip name, which for me is Apple M1 Pro. Yeah, I would say I'm the lucky one. And which means that I need to install the Android Studio with Mac chip. Let's press it. So as you can see, the installation file is pretty huge. Let's turn on the time machine. Android Studio installation file is downloaded. But before installing, I want to show you this table in the bottom of the page. If for some reason this button didn't work for you, which I pressed like before, the button which indicates what operation system are you using, you can basically download it manually for your operation system. So here are the operation systems which are supported. So 2 Windows operation systems, Mac, as I said, for Intel chip and for Apple chip, and Linux. And interesting is that Chrome OS is also supported. This is operational system from Google. Unfortunately, there is no support for Android itself and for instance, iOS tablets. But I think it's more than enough to have these systems. So let's jump directly into installation. So here is our Android Studio installation file, downloads folder. Let's double press it. Now it's asking to move Android Studio to applications folder. And yeah, as you can see, the Android Studio itself is a huge one. And now Android Studio is in our app folder. Basically, installation is done. So Apple is asking that if we are sure that we want to open it. Yes, obviously we are. Now we see this cool splash screen. Yeah, really Google like it to make it creative, let's say. As this version is dolphin. Yeah, there was a dolphin on the splash screen. So here are some projects which I already developed before. So this is the welcome page of Android Studio. So for now we'll stop here and jump into the next topic. Android Studio is finally installed. Everything looks clear and looks like we are ready to go. But there are always but. So Android Studio is powerful, and when something is powerful, it requires lots of resources. I like this meme very much. So it's kinda old, but still relevant. Android Studio is eating your RAM memory as crazy as possible. So let's jump into the system requirements. If you have Windows, you basically need 64-bit Microsoft Windows version 8, 10, 11, which is probably not a problem. You need x86 CPU architecture, second generation Intel Core or AMD CPU with support Windows Hypervisor. This one is very important. 8 gigabytes RAM or more. And obviously you need 8 gigabytes of disk space. It's written 8 gigabytes, but as I know from my experience, it's not enough. So be ready that you would need to remove something from your disk. And minimal screen resolution should be fine. For macOS, the macOS version, usually we have the latest one. The same about chips, also the same size of RAM and the same size of disk space. Basically, requirements are almost the same except the macOS version. And for Linux, we have the same requirements for chip, and we have it's basically the same requirements for memory. So what should we do if we don't have these system requirements? Well, it's always worth it to try still to install Android Studio and do some enhancements to make it workable. Let's jump into this topic. Of course, if your system is better than this minimal, please skip this part and jump directly to the next video. Thank you. Well, my personal computer is slow. I remember how I started, and it was the issue for me as well. You have to deal with this big Android Studio thing, which is very, very powerful, and at the same time it requires lots of resources. This is the sad truth, and we have to deal with it. But we can improve Android Studio and our personal computer performance. Here are some suggestions for you which might help. Definitely, you cannot use Android emulator. Android emulator, this is like Android operation system device which is installed, which lives in your personal computer, and it also takes lots of memory. You cannot use it. So if your personal computer is slow, you need to have Android physical device, which will help you to test the app. Second thing is that you don't use any other software except Android Studio. So for instance, we have Google Chrome, we have browsers, we have antiviruses usually on our personal computers. Sad thing that you have to disable it and use only Android Studio. If you need to watch the YouTube videos with some instructions, or you need to read documentations, please use another device, maybe another laptop or tablet or anything else. If you are Windows user, you have to consider to switch from Windows to Linux. This also might help. Also, I forgot to mention here is that if you have a budget to improve your personal computer, you need to consider to change your HD drive to SSD drive. SSD drive is way faster, and it will also help you to make personal computer performance better. And finally, make plugins enhancement. So Android Studio has some plugins pre-installed. What is Android Studio plugin? This is like an extension for existing Android Studio functionality. For beginners especially, I would say that you don't need all of the pre-installed plugins, so we can easily disable them. Let's jump into this topic. Well, we have our welcome page, Android Studio welcome page opened. Here we just need to jump into plugins page here. Let's press it. So here, as you can see, there are two tabs: the marketplace, which has all of the plugins available for Android Studio. There are quite a lot. And here are the plugins which are installed now. So the plugins we are interested in are located in other tools section. So Android APK support. There is a quick description. It says that provides Android APK support. We don't need it for now. Android NDK. This is something for C++ development for Android. Definitely we don't need it now. App Links Assistant. Yeah, it asks us to disable dependent plugin, which is Firebase app indexing. Let's disable it as well. What else? Firebase. Yes, we can disable them as well. Firebase services, Firebase testing. We can also disable no Java bytecode decompiler. I would say we still need. Well, now GitHub. Yes, let's disable this one. Mercurial. Yeah, let's disable this one as well. JUnit for test, we might need it. C++ language support. Yeah, I would disable it as well. Smalley support. No, we actually need it. So as you can see, we disabled quite some plugins, and the performance of our Android Studio will be better. So I hope that it will also help you. Thanks for staying with me in this chapter, and hope to see you in the next chapter. See you soon.